Millions and millions of Americans are extremely concerned, and we should be, because right now, U.S. consumer confidence is at near record lows. We are about to head into a recession. I want to explain what's going on. We're going to dive into this report from Business Insider. I want to give you some numbers here, but the big thing that I want you to take away is what is the economy looking like as we move into 2025. Some big changes are going to be happening, and the biggest change is we're going to have a change in leadership. It's going to go from a Biden administration to a Trump administration, and that right there has many freaked out. Well, I want to explain more as to what is going on, how we could potentially be impacted moving forward, and what this means for all of us in 2025. So, all I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates, and now let's begin. So let's dive into the main article. That is this one. It says U.S. consumer confidence drops unexpectedly to near recession levels ahead of Trump's second term. Now I want to read a little bit of this to you. It says right here, the Conference Board's expectations index dropped to a 5-month low to 81.1. That's in December. It says that data nears the threshold of 80, which typically signals a recession ahead. Keep in mind that signaling a recession does not mean we are actually in a recession. Here is what a previous dictionary definition of a recession was. A recession was considered 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. Keep this in mind. Over the past few years, we have been told that no, we aren't in a recession because even though we've had 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP, that's not technically what the recession is. That's according to the Biden administration. They changed the definition to ensure that we were not in a recession. Well, guess what? The Trump administration will not do that. They will not be changing a definition in order to make sure that they are looking better. Now, I want to show you this. This article right here, it says U.S. headed for a recession as consumer confidence falls ahead of Trump's inauguration. One of the big things that they are worried about, that U.S. consumers are concerned with, is inflation. The reason why we're so concerned with inflation is because Donald Trump has vowed to put tariffs on countries like China, Canada, even Mexico. Look at this. It says Trump's tariffs threats are setting up a global supply chain freakout. It says U.S. and European companies are front-loading orders and weighing price hikes while Chinese factories hunt for buyers elsewhere. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine who does private labeling. He sells products on Amazon. And one of the things that he's been doing a lot lately is he's been fighting with Chinese suppliers because they do not want to sell to people here in the United States. Think about that for a second. All those products that come from China and land on our shores and we purchase them. Look at all the products coming from Walmart. Look at all those products. The reason why Walmart's able to give us some great deals on products is because they get them for low prices because they ship in large quantities from China. Well, guess what? If we have a 100% or a 60% tariff on all the products we buy, that's going to push prices up. We're going to see inflation. Okay, that is a huge concern. So that right there is what's bringing consumer confidence down. I want to show you this though. Look at this right here. It says the Conference Board's index measuring U.S. consumers' confidence dropped 8.1 points to 104.7 in December, coming in under consensus expectations for an increase, the nonprofit think tank said on Monday. It says the index seeks to capture consumers' assessments of the business and labor market and their views on where things could be headed in the coming months. Now, here's where things are really taking a turn. We know about Donald Trump's plans on placing tariffs on countries like China and Canada and Mexico, and the two, Canada and Mexico, I don't see it happening. China, absolutely. But here's the big one. Commercial mortgage delinquencies are climbing. Okay, this is led by the CMBS, the commercial mortgage-backed securities market. Right, we are about to see more than $1 trillion in loans default. They'll become delinquent if they haven't been already. And I say this because banks are going to be pretty much giving back properties. We know that many of these companies, and there's a lot over here in the Seattle, Washington area, where we are starting to see these big businesses. They're not bringing people back into the office like they thought they would. And starting January 1st, Amazon is one of those companies that they want you back in the office 5 days a week. Well, some believe this is going to happen, but the majority of people say that this will not happen. We're not going to see all of Amazon's employees show up to the office. They're going to revolt. And when they do, Amazon's going to have to decide, do we just let the people work from home or do we lay them off? And once we see mass layoffs, well, that's going to be a big issue for the jobs market, but it's also going to be an issue for all these commercial buildings that are sitting vacant. So guess what? Those companies aren't going to be making the payments. They'll just hand those properties back to the bank because they can't refinance it. And right now, about $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate needs to be refinanced. So again, that's a huge red flag as well. Look at this one. It says San Francisco house prices plunge amid widespread tech layoffs. A friend of mine lives in San Francisco, and he was telling me this exact same thing. Not only are home prices dropping, but people are moving out of their homes, just leaving them. They don't even want to be there because of all the different issues. They've been laid off, utilities getting shut off, okay? The threats, the homelessness in the area. It's insane. So a lot of them just moving away. But look at this one, okay? Another big story. You know why many people are concerned about the upcoming economy in 2025? It's not necessarily because of Donald Trump. It's because of what we've been told over the past several years and how now all things are shifting. Look at this. Walgreens is going to close 1,200 stores. Walgreens, your neighborhood pharmacy, is going to close 1,200 stores. Oh, we got some good news for you today, though. Big Lots, they found somebody to buy about 400 stores, which means they're going to keep about 400 locations open. Here's the issue. We've already seen over the past several months that hundreds and hundreds of Big Lots stores have already closed. They've already sold off a lot of their inventory for pennies on the dollar. And now those big businesses, those big retail spaces are sitting vacant, which means the landlord not making any money, the city not making any money, right? A lot of issues here. Now, this is where things are going. We've heard about the U.S. could be in a recession, right? But what does a recession mean, right? We're going to see stagflation. Well, we've seen it. Well, here's what I want to show you. I was reading this article today from NBC News. It says the Great Resignation to Great Detachment, how the U.S. job market has slowed. Now, I want to read a little bit of this to you. And the reason why I want to read a little bit of this to you is because what we have seen happening over the past couple of years, specifically over the past 6 to 12 months, this is about to, intensify. We're about ready to see this, but this is going to happen probably fourfold, fivefold. Look at this. It says Dan Hevia has been laid off before, but this time feels different. Hevia, 42, a marketing and business development specialist based in New York City area, has been out of work since the summer. In a recent LinkedIn post, he claimed he has filled out more than 1,000 job applications with nothing to show for it. He goes on to say, if you had told me that I was laid off in June, that I would approach 6 months without a job offer, I would laugh. Says, but here it comes, and boy, does this job market humble you on a regular basis. Says, I'm continuing to apply with shaken confidence, if not totally broken. Says, for many workers, the euphoria of the Great Resignation, a period following COVID reopenings that brought a massive reshuffling of jobs and substantial wage gains, has given way to a new, far more uncertain environment. Goes on to say, at 4.2%, the unemployment rate remains historically low. For context, the employment rate never dropped below 5% in the 1970s and 1980s. Yet, even as unemployment has fallen somewhat in recent months, it climbed substantially from its pandemic era low of 3.4% in April of 2022. Okay, now, with all that said, the biggest issue we're facing right now is that employers are putting up help wanted signs. They're saying now hiring. But what happens is people have been resigning. So guess what employers decide to do? They were going to go and put out this help wanted sign, right? Now hiring, looking for workers, whatever. They're going to do that in preparation for their workers resigning. Okay? Their workers going and working for somebody else. Then they just call on one of the other workers that had already applied, that's in the system. They would just hire them. Well, guess what? People aren't leaving anymore because many people are concerned about what is coming for us in 2025. As a result, all these employers have all these people waiting to get a job, but yet those job openings aren't opening up because people are not leaving just yet. Again, as we see this mass reshuffling, we are going to see more and more companies lay off employees, especially as they realize they don't need as many employees as they currently have. So, with that said, what does this mean for you and us? Well, the biggest thing is we're going to have to wait, see what Donald Trump has in store for us, what the Republican Party is going to pass, what different pieces of legislation they're going to propose. Once we see all this, we're also going to see what the stock market's doing, what other countries are going through. Is this war between Russia and Ukraine going to finally end? Is Israel going to pull out of the wars that they're currently in? If we see all this stuff happening and it's successful, then maybe we don't end up in a recession. But according to experts, there's a higher likelihood we do dip into that recession territory, even for a little bit, before we pull ourselves out of it. So, we'll see what happens, but the one thing that I can promise you is I'll be here every step of the way and I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing and I'll see you guys on the next one.